Max, welcome back to the channel. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Max, I want to know, what are your thoughts on Elon Musk tweeting about Dogecoin?
Really?
Yes, I want to know.
Well, I think his primary objective is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. And he mentioned he has a kid that he's playing around with these other altcoins with. I don't pay any attention, really.
Okay.
I know he has a big Bitcoin position, and I'm sure he's going to continue to increase that position.
I heard that your highest price prediction for 2021 for Bitcoin is $220,000 per Bitcoin. Can you explain to the audience why you think Bitcoin is going to achieve that price level, and what are the milestones that we're going to face during 2021 that are going to put the price of Bitcoin at that level?
Right. So 220,000 per Bitcoin in 2021 would be a normal reaction after a halving. So we've had 3 halvings. Mm-hmm. And typically within the first year or so, you see this 6-7x return. So that would give us Bitcoin at 220,000 a coin. We're already seeing the coin now getting close to 50,000. It's looking on, so far, I think my prediction looks pretty good. We've got now Bank Mellon, New York. It's coming into the Bitcoin space as a custodian. They're a multi-trillion-dollar bank. It's the biggest custodian bank in the United States. As you mentioned, Elon Musk has now joined Michael Saylor and others in the corporate space. Ray Dalio is going to be the keynote speaker at Consensus in New York. Paul Tudor Jones is probably continuing to buy, and as well as other hedge funds. And it's funny that the senator in Nigeria this week was saying that, you know, if Bitcoin is successful, it would put their paper money out of business, which is exactly right. So they're starting to understand on the political level that the value proposition of Bitcoin is that you can get rid of your fiat money, and fiat money, of course, is the root of all problem. And I'm sure we'll see a state announce that they're buying Bitcoin. I'm also believing that in 2021 we'll have a sovereign wealth fund, maybe Qatar, maybe Norway, will announce that they're accumulating Bitcoin. And so the adoption curve is really becoming really hyperbolic at this point. Remember, in the internet craze of the 90s and late 90s, it wasn't until 1997, 1998 really when you saw that hockey stick move and explosion of the internet. So I think this could be that year in Bitcoin where we see that kind of hockey stick adoption and you see this price explosion.
Max, and the audience wants to know, what are your thoughts about a lot of Bitcoin being in hands of a few people? Meaning a lot of people are worried about whales and financial institutions manipulating the market and continue doing so more and more and more. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, people who think that people with a lot of Bitcoin have a position of power don't understand Bitcoin. You know, if you have a lot of Bitcoin, it doesn't give you any power. It doesn't give you any power to impact the network. You can't change the consensus algorithm. You can't change the emission schedule. You can't change the protocol.
But you can manipulate the price.
The price manipulation, the second point, is also not really a great point, because unlike the paper money world, where the base layer of treasuries is fictitious and manipulated, in the Bitcoin world, the base layer is Bitcoin where anyone can take their private keys. Once you remove your private keys from the system, the manipulation schemes collapse. So that we have the hodlers of last resort, the private key owners, are a check on manipulation. But, you know, the fact is that the upward trajectory of Bitcoin is going to continue now for many, many, many years. And we're going to see some volatility, but the upward bias is all the way up. You know, people who complain about the volatility, you have to ask yourself the following question. Are you willing to accept some volatility in exchange for a guaranteed profit? Or do you rather have no volatility and guarantee loss of purchasing power, which is what every fiat money in the world offers? Guaranteed loss of purchasing power, no volatility. So you have to just decide, what do you prefer? No no volatility and a guaranteed loss of purchasing power? Or were you willing to accept some volatility with a guaranteed price appreciation?
And what would you say to the people who are worried about regulations and controls from the governments applying that control over Bitcoin, especially for the new people, because we see a lot of new people joining the market because we're in a bull market. So it's good to answer all these questions.
Right. Well, a lot of government insiders are now converting over to Bitcoin. And in the United States, a couple of states now are converting into Bitcoin. The state of Wyoming is going full Bitcoin. The city of Miami is going full Bitcoin. I understand the state of Rhode Island is going to become pro-Bitcoin. So what happens is, in the United States anyway, when a few states start a trend, it works its way up to the federal level. We saw that with marijuana. Started in Colorado. They legalized medical marijuana. Now it's going to become a federal law in America, legalize marijuana for medicinal purposes, etc. We'll see the same thing with Bitcoin. We have a senator in America from Wyoming who sits on the Senate Finance Committee in Washington, D.C. She's pro-Bitcoin. She has stated that she believes Bitcoin is a solution to fiat money. We now have politicians in Nigeria who are pro-Bitcoin, want to get the country to go pro-Bitcoin. So we have this, so-called fifth column of people inside all these governments working to transform the governments to being pro-Bitcoin. The second reason why this is a non-issue is that more likely than governments banning Bitcoin is going to be governments are entering what I call the hash war, where governments are all competing with each other for the most Bitcoin and for mining Bitcoin. So it's like the space race back in the 1960s, the Sputnik moment when America entered competition with the Soviet Union, and we had the space race. Well, right now we're entering into the hash war race, and we got Iran, Venezuela, Kazakhstan, and a few other countries are now actively pursuing greater Bitcoin glory. So countries in Europe and the United States, they've got to decide whether they're going to be relevant in the 21st century or not. Of course, they will jump in and they'll start mining and hashing and courting Bitcoin aggressively. And of course, that increases the security, which makes the price go up. And that's how you get to $220,000 this year and goes higher, much higher from there.
Excellent. Next question, Max. We're currently in a transition point in humanity between fiat currencies and Bitcoin. We haven't achieved that level of mass adoption yet until one Bitcoin is worth one Bitcoin and we value things in Bitcoin and Satoshis. So how do you imagine the world in, let's say, between 7 and 10 years in terms of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin? Do you think, are we going to continue having these fiat currencies in a digital format only, and then we're going to have Bitcoin and then maybe other cryptocurrencies? How do you picture the world in that way?
Right. Well, Bitcoin competes with fiat money, it competes with gold, and it competes with other cryptocurrencies, as you call them. Now, the thing about Bitcoin is that it's going to gobble up all the world's energy. 99% of the world's energy will be dedicated to Bitcoin. That means there's going to be no energy for fiat money, no energy for gold, and no energy for anything other than Bitcoin. No cryptocurrencies. All the major so-called altcoins or cryptocurrencies are going to be starved of energy and just fade away, wither away and die. Because look at the hash rate of Bitcoin. It's going at now new all-time high, 170 quintillion calculations per second. If you look at some of the others in the top 10, the hard forks of Bitcoin, the hash rate's dying. Sometimes blocks don't come for weeks on end. They're complete disasters, and they don't have the energy, so they're just going to die. Bitcoin has an insatiable appetite for energy. It's not only transforming the monetary world, it's transforming the energy world. It's moving the world away from fossil fuels to renewables because it's cheaper and more efficient to mine Bitcoin. So that's another huge benefit for humanity, thanks to Bitcoin, thanks to Satoshi.
And changing the topic, Max, let's talk about DeFi. What are your thoughts on DeFi, decentralized finance, and all these projects that are being built on top of many different blockchains?
It's all available on Bitcoin. There's nothing in the so-called DeFi space that won't be available now or in the near future on Bitcoin. So again, I don't think any of those projects are going to exist beyond what can be done already on Bitcoin. So they are going to all go down worthless, basically.
You mean all these projects being built on top of a side chain
Layer
connected to
two,
layer two? Okay,
Lightning, every securitization,
but on top of
yield
a
projects,
Bitcoin version.
anything that's under the umbrella of DeFi can do it now, or will soon be able to do it on Bitcoin. For Bitcoin, the important thing was to build a new base layer money for the first time in 5,000 years. That's what was important. Okay, Vitalik Buterin, he was a core developer and he got impatient. He didn't want to build core money. He didn't want to build the next layer money. He got impatient and started his shitcoin, that exit scam called Ether, right? Because he's an impatient little guy. But all that stuff's garbage. It's not going to survive, and we shouldn't even be talking about it because it's sacrilegious. It's like talking about, garbage. I hate to sully the conversation by mentioning such idiocies, to tell you the truth.
And what do you think about interoperability? Do we need interoperability in order to build a decentralized world or internet? For example, Polkadot, this blockchain is aiming to do so. What are your thoughts on that?
We have interoperability right now with Bitcoin. You want to send Bitcoin anywhere in the world, it's okay, do it. It's all happening there. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to reinvent fire. You don't need to reinvent the printing press. You don't need to reinvent what the perfect already from day one. It's there, it's now, it's here, it's going higher, it's taken over the world. All banks are plugging into it. None of these banks or companies are saying they're adding anything but Bitcoin to their balance sheet. That's the only thing they mention because it's the most secure. It's got the brightest future. It's the most genius design. They're not adding any of this shit going to their balance sheet. That would be crazy. That's nuts. That's never going to happen. Same thing for sovereign wealth funds. Same thing for any country. That's just not going to happen.
Okay, again, a lot of new people are joining the market. If you could give them one recommendation about Bitcoin or any recommendation that you can give them, what would it be and why?
Buy Bitcoin. That's my recommendation.
Okay, got it.
If you only have $10 or, put it into Bitcoin and buy some every single day. You got to get rid of your fiat money. The Argentinian peso is one of the worst piles of dog shit in the whole financial world. You don't want just having that in your pocket makes you as less of a human being. You need to convert all that into Bitcoin as soon as possible. I'm not saying anything new here. Anyone who lives in Argentina knows the truth. That money is never going to be worth anything. They're always going to devalue. It's always going to go to nothing. And you have no way of escaping poverty driven by fiat money printing except Bitcoin. So the question is for you. When do you want to stop being a poor idiot? When do you want to stop getting it out of the gutter? When do you want to start talking with Satoshi? That's the question for you. That's when you buy Bitcoin.
Excellent. Max, you already answered my next question, which was explain to people why they should buy Bitcoin. Do you want to do you want to add something else for the newies?
I'll give you a calmer version of the answer. So
got it.
Why should somebody buy Bitcoin? And the reason is pretty simple. If you want to preserve your wealth, and if you want to work at a job and put your hard-earned money into something that the government is not destroying every single year with inflation, you have a few choices. You have gold, you have Bitcoin. So let's talk about those two. One is better than the other, and that would be Bitcoin. For the following reason. Bitcoin right now, with a market cap of just under $1 trillion, will be very seriously competing with gold, and gold has a market cap, let's call it 10 to 11 trillion dollars. So that means Bitcoin's market cap, you've got an easy 10x from here. So from, let's call it 50,000 to 500,000, right? It's going to happen. So you would rather have something that's going to go up 10 times than gold, which is already old technology, and it's hard to move. It's not, it's hard to insure. It's hard to verify. It's inferior to Bitcoin. You know, with Bitcoin, the transaction is the verification. With Bitcoin, the transaction is the settlement. With gold, that's not the case, really. You've got to go through an intermediary. You've got to get it verified. You've got to move it around. It's very heavy. It's very cumbersome. It's inferior to Bitcoin in just about every single way. So those are your two choices. If you want to work for nothing and get fiat money and watch your savings go to zero, then, you know, you would stick with the Argentine peso. If you want to preserve your wealth, you know, you could pick gold, but gold is now been replaced by Bitcoin. So you would go with Bitcoin. It's easier to access. It's easier to store. You can move it around the world with your seed phrase. You don't even need to have a piece of hardware. I can go anywhere in the world with my wealth, and I just type in my seed phrase, and there's my wealth, right? You can't ban it. It's unconfiscatable. It's protected by an impenetrable shield of encryption that nobody can attack. No government, no group of governments. You know, encryption's never been hacked and never will be hacked. The network's running at 170 quintillion calculations per second. There's no computer, no group of computers, no entity. It's God-given, you know. You got a lot of Catholics down there in Argentina. Wake up. This is God speaking in the form of Bitcoin. Get
in the
with
form
it.
of Bitcoin.
If a currency was reborn, you know, if Diego was reborn as a currency, it would be Bitcoin. Maradona, if he was rebirthed as money, it would be Bitcoin. It's the Diego Maradona of money.
Oh my God.
If you can't wrap your mind around it, then are you even Argentinian?
Max, my final question for you today is the following. Are you planning on selling Bitcoin when we reach a new all-time high in this bull market?
No, I use it as collateral.
No. Collateral.
I can borrow against it. Why would I ever sell it? I can just borrow. I can borrow against it as collateral. Why I would never sell it? Because I would never want it to go back into anything like a fiat money.
Got it.
As such, that would be an insult to God.
Max,
the hand of God would come down and strike me.
For how long do you think this? How long do you think this bull market will last? Is it going to end this year? Do you see it being a little bit more extended into 2022?
The bull market, conservatively, will last another 100 years.
All right. Okay.
Let me look at the chart. You know, zoom out from the chart. It's never been in a.
That is a good answer.
It's been in a bull market since 2009. The hash rate, by the way, forget the price. Just look at the hash rate. The hash rate's been consistently huge bull market since day one. You don't look at the price, look at the hash rate. The hash rate is the key to the Bitcoin protocol, not the price. The price is just window dressing. It's just the ornaments on the tree. That the tree, the Merkle tree in this case, is Bitcoin. That is the hash rate. And the hash rate is gobbling up energy at a voracious appetite. It's the Godzilla coming out of the sea, destroying everything in its path, every fiat money, every gold sovereign, every politician, every nation state can get wiped away with a swipe of Bitcoin Godzilla's paw. It's just decimated and flattened in an instant. So it should be, because that's our great hope, that we as humans will be once again connected to the greater nature of our better selves, thanks to Bitcoin, thanks to Satoshi.
Max, thank you so much. Muchas gracias for being here today. This is for the Spanish market mainly, you know that. We thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Max Keiser, give it a thumbs up for this video. Comment below if you have more questions. And thank you, Max, for the support. And please never, never, ever go away. We hope to see you. We hope to see continue doing these interviews for the next, let's say, 80 years minimum.
Look, I'll be down in Buenos Aires again as soon as this pandemic thing is gone, and we'll be flying down there. We're going to have a live event. Going to get 10,000 people in the stadium, and we're going to channel Satoshi spirit in real time. And we're going
Let's
to
do
have
it.
communion with Satoshi. And we're all going to feel it. We're going to all feel it. It's all going to be one. I'll be there. Don't doubt it. I'm coming. I'm coming.
We look forward to it very much. Gracias, Max. We'll see you next time. Ciao,
Bye
ciao.
now.